what's your relationship with this technology? And you're calling it Panaseeda,
Right.
which is a wonderful play on words, seeds and panacea.
Right.
And could you describe the technology and what you do and why you do it?
Yeah, well, it took me quite a while to catch on. I met Andreas in 2009, briefly, and then I ran into him again and again down at the market in Venice. He was at that Rossum market Wednesdays and Saturdays, and he was this slim little blonde-haired, blue-eyed, very happy little German guy. And when I first got to know him, he was a little bit, withdrawn as far as who he really was. It turned out that he was an Olympic champion, was world renowned, won the men's gold in the high bar in 1996, and rode quite a wave for about 10 years. But when I met him, he was a very humbled guy, and he was just at this little market. He had this little tiny seed press, and he was pressing the seed oil. And he kept telling me, seed oils are very important for broad spectrum health. And yet he had health issues at that time still. And it took me until 2012 to really catch on to what was going on there. And when I took the oils, I didn't find them, I didn't take them consistently. I bought some from him, and everybody seemed to rave about them, but I just didn't catch on to that. And so I lost track of Andreas between about kind of the end of 2010 and leading up until I ran into him again in the end of 2012. So when I saw him again at the end of 2012 in California, I was very surprised at his appearance. And he was totally different looking. He was very athletic looking. He had perfect skin. His eyes were brilliant white. And I'd never seen anybody's eyes that had that kind of color and that brilliance. And I'm like, wow, what have you been doing? He says, well, it's all the seed oils. I told you when you came to see me, you're going to be very pleased with what I'm going to share with you. And his wife and his daughter were the same appearance. And so that caught my attention very much. And he said, well, everything technologically changed, because in '09 when I first met him, he was using this little cold expeller press, which was just a standard cold expeller press. He said it was a little bit unique, but it was, he was pressing the oil. It had to go in the fridge. It had to be, it wasn't stable. And he had a lot of research done starting in 2005, seeking a way to press oil that wasn't damaging it so much, because in a standard cold expeller press, they can only come up to a certain amount of tonnage based on the mechanics at the head. And so when the raw seeds, even raw organic non-GMO seeds, are going through the head, it comes down to the end, and it takes about 10 seconds of mechanical grinding through a very restricted space where the oil finally comes out of the seeds. And depending on the type of seeds, it's more or less difficult to get the oil off the fiber of the seed. So what his quest was to find a technology that could get it out instantly without damage, and it just was not available. There was nothing out there. He looked all over the internet. He's connected to people all over the world because of his previous connections, and he just hit a stalemate. So he kind of had given up more or less on that, and just said, well, we're just going to have to make it fresh, and people are going to have to take it right away. And that's how he had healed his body, was using flax oil. And he had Crohn's disease. He almost passed away of Crohn's disease. You can see it on the website, his story. But he just used flax oil, but it didn't fix the Crohn's. It just stopped the bleeding and got enough nutrition into his system that he was able to survive. In April of 2009, he woke up at 2 in the morning, about 2 in the morning, he said. Didn't have an exact time, but woke up and he had what we would call an inventor's vision, which he believes that God showed him the exact mechanical layout of equipment to press seed oil perfectly. He hooked that information up. He drew a picture of it and got that information to a mechanical engineer in Germany who's nothing less than a sheer genius. And both of them are genius level, period. I mean, both of them they never cease to amaze me. So the two of them together, just the synergy of those two combinations, one that could put the actual machinery together and the guy that had the vision of it with the belief that you could do this perfectly, between the beginning of 2010 and the middle of 2012, they had perfected all of these different seed oils. And the final one that changed Andreas's life permanently was the coriander seed oil that he pressed And it took him from December of 2011 until August of 2012 to figure that one out. And there's literally hundreds of experiments with time and pressure and speed and temperature and all these things that you have to look at when you're doing each seed to get the perfect oil coming out. When he perfected the coriander seed oil in August of 2012, he took copious amounts of it, equivalent to at least $1,000 retail worth of the product himself in about 32 days. So he did crank a lot of it into his system, consuming it right off of the press as he was going through this production. He said in 32 days, all of his Crohn's symptoms were totally gone. And he believes that they were related to, of course, leaky gut and heavy metals and yeast overgrowth, candida, whatever you want to call it. But those things that are extremely irritating to the digestive system. So today he can eat whatever food he wants and it does not rush through his body like it used to. And then he began to absorb all the nutrients because his digestion was working correctly. And he started doing chia seed oil for himself. He said without even exercising, because of his original muscle memory of being like a little Hercules when he was an Olympian, it was about halfway back without having to do a bunch of exercise, just from muscle memory. And of course, working out, you have to work out to build muscle normally. But there was something very unique about that. And so he was telling me all about this. And I'm like, okay, all right, this is a major breakthrough. I said, Andreas, you've got pure gold coming out of these machines for people's health. It's just the ultimate, most valuable thing you could supply to somebody for their health. And I believe that you've been given this. This is a gift, and you're a steward of this, and it's your responsibility to get it to the world. I believe that I met you for a very specific purpose and reason, that I am being invited to be a part of this, and I want to do whatever I can to support it. So it was very, very small. This is in December of 2012 by this point. And he had one press. So immediately we began to source seeds, and we got 2 more presses and got them all set up. We moved from Southern California up to Oregon last October. It took a lot of effort, a lot of time to get everything in place and get it dialed in. And now we're able to produce a marginal amount down in that. We can do about 1,000 bottles a day down there in that facility. And when we rolled it out last August. The first product we rolled out was the 5-seed blend, because we wanted to get the most important seed oils out that would cover the most number of bases for health and be an affordable oil without having to get people to buy all these oils. So I'd asked Andreas, what do you think the most important foundational seed oils are? And he goes, well, give me a few days. I'll think about it. So he got back with me. He said, okay, flax oil saved my life. So that's number 1. Sunflower seed oil for the vitamin E. Black sesame seed oil for the kidney. Coriander seed oil for the heavy metal pulling and the candida removal. And pumpkin seed oil for the kidneys, or for the prostate and the urinary. And so I said, okay, cool. And then I said, well, just give me the list of everything. So he's going through this whole list of all these things that all these seed oils are going to do. And I said, Andreas, it's going to be too confusing. That people need to get their head around things. It's too big of a list. I said, what you've got is a panacea. And he said, what's that? Because he's a German and he's not familiar with that particular term. I said, well, a panacea is like a cure-all. And then it just dawned on me, we're going to call the product Panaseeda. And so that's where the name was born. And we laughed about that because it was actually true. But it's a play on words, obviously. And he said, I said, well, let's press those 5 seed oils and let's mix them all up and put them in a bottle and sell them so that people can just buy 1 bottle. He said, no, I'll do far better than that. He said, I will go through and figure out how to get this blend. I'll get the exact ratios right. We'll put them all together. We'll press them into 1 molecule. And that took him a couple of weeks, and it was done. And then it took